Summer's here and it's time to kickstart your fitness journey. Sign up this month and receive a complimentary fitness assessment and in-body composition testing to jumpstart your fitness journey. Join the WorldGate family and dive into summer feeling confident, healthy, and unstoppable. Visit us today and let's make this summer your best one yet. WorldGate Athletic Club and Spa, providing fitness for everybody. Join today.
All right, let's talk about the terror and fear around expressing yourself and your needs and setting boundaries and limits, and what that fear or imagined consequence in your mind might be when you do that. And a lot of times we blow it up in our minds and it's a trauma response, right? So we think that this is like life or death. If we set these limits for ourselves or speak up, that something really bad is going to happen. And this is something I'm working a lot with my clients on, because let me tell you, if you do not heal and learn to rewire that pattern, you are setting yourself up for a continued life of people pleasing, first of all, but also to end up getting mixed up with another manipulator because you are too worried about advocating for yourself to the degree that you will self-abandon for the fear of their reaction of your boundaries. And this requires doing the inner work to make sure that you are advocating for yourself through the fear, because it is going to hold you back, whether it's in intimate relationships, work life, friendships, other family. We have to learn that it's okay to rock the boat, that it's okay to share how we feel. And it makes sense, right? If you have experienced negative responses to your boundaries or your feelings or your limits or whatever, then you've stored that in your body somewhere along the line. And now you have a fear of standing up for yourself. And so this happens with women when they're in these narcissistic, toxic, abusive relationships. And it also happens when they have left. It continues. And so they continue to feel that terror and fear and panic when they have to make a move with the divorce lawyer, or they need to set a boundary or something in those lines. They have a very visceral experience around the fear of retaliation or the fear of punishment. And you can get really stuck because there's no one around you to help you to feel safe in that. So instead of setting the boundary through the fear or setting the limit or doing whatever the thing is that you're afraid to do, and then knowing that you've got you and that you can soothe yourself and regulate yourself on the other side of that. If you don't have those skills and you don't have that trust in yourself that you can do that, you're going to continue to self-abandon. And this is why when we have ended up in one unhealthy, toxic, abusive relationship, we are more prone to hopping into another and another and another unless we do this work. This work to realize that we have a fear of speaking up. Where does it come from? And in certain relationships, the fear is there for a reason, because it isn't safe to be vulnerable and bring up how you feel, right? And so that is work that we have to do on ourselves, on our own. Otherwise, we can get really stuck and we can make knee-jerk reactions and act hastily in haste, without grounded, calm thought and reflection and discernment. And what is really beautiful is when you can get to a place of, I am scared to speak up, but I'm more scared not to. Because if you don't, then you set yourself up for all kinds of dysfunctional cycles to continue. And one of the things I hear from women across the board when they've left one of these relationships is the fear of dating again, or the fear of getting married again in another relationship. And you very well should be fearing it if you're still in this place where you don't feel like you can speak up and say, hey, I didn't like that, or hey, that wasn't cool, or hey, this is my boundary, or this is how that made me feel, or they're dating and they're not able to articulate that stuff. They're afraid of offending the person and the person won't call them back or something, right? Like, who cares? It's a stranger. But we have to build self-trust within ourselves that we have our own backs. And that's a huge part of this piece of the puzzle that's lacking, is there's a lack of self-trust. So if you are having difficulty communicating with a narcissistic ex and you're finding yourself going either, pulling back and not saying the thing, not setting the boundary, not cutting off some kind of cord or limit or boundary, something in there, you're not doing it still, you have to do the work around that to shift that. And it does take having the right support. I've had women do things that were extremely scary, but they were able to do it because they had my coaching and accountability on the other side. It is scary to do these things on your own because you feel like you are on your own. There's no one coming. You're it. And you're on your own. And that is a scary feeling, especially if you've had abandonment wounds and you have literally been abandoned. It is a scary feeling to sit with that. But what is worse is betraying ourselves to keep the peace. And it sounds cliche, it sounds nice, but it's the truth, because when we do not speak up, when we're not standing up for the true things that we want, in any case, then something is misaligned within us. We're going to feel it somewhere in the body or in the mind or in mental chatter or obsessive thinking or ruminating, panic, urgency to respond quickly, right? We need to get in our bodies and start learning how to be in our bodies, to learn and discern, when do I bring something up? Where do I bring it up? How do I bring it up? And one of the big things that I coach and help women with, which now has become a course within my program, Thriving After Narcissistic Abuse, is the principles of messaging with a narcissistic ex in a way that keeps you in your power, dignity, and self-respect, because it's tricky. You're trying to communicate with someone who is not your emotional equal. They're not able to be an equal adult with you to co-parent. Instead, they work against you. They avoid responsibility. They don't answer your emails. They literally are like children. And so you're trying to figure out, how do I communicate with this person for the best interest of the kids? And if you have young kids, I do feel for you immensely. I work with quite a few women that have young kids, so they've got a long ways where they're still going to have to be dealing with this person for the rest of their kids' childhoods. And so you have to learn the tools, the skills, how to communicate with them, even though it's a one-sided communication. It may feel like you're beating your head against a wall, but you need to learn how to navigate that in a way that you're able to keep your peace. Because the biggest thing that women struggle with is they still feel under their ex's thumb, or they still feel like their ex is pulling all the strings of their life and controlling and manipulating, and they are. That's what they are doing. And so are you going to allow that to completely destroy you, or are you going to get up and keep going and go about your life and your business and, have more of a winning mindset around, why am I still even giving this any thought or consideration about what they might want, what they think, what they might do? You have to start putting yourself first in the equation of your life, because no one else is going to do it. No one else is going to put you first in the equation of your life. That has to come completely from you. And like, no one's going to come and give you a permission slip or say, hey, yeah, you should go completely after him and get everything that you want out of him. You know, you have to do what feels correct for you and what feels in alignment with you, that you can go to sleep at night and know, I handled this in the best way I could have. Was I perfect? No, it's very difficult to be perfect. No one is perfect. But did you learn and adjust during the times that you weren't behaving in the ways that you would have liked to have? It's a tricky slope. It really is. And it's not easy to navigate when you don't have the correct backing, the correct support, the correct guidance from someone who gets it, who's been there, who has come out the other side, and who has led other women through the other side and beyond. Because you need to be surrounded by strong women who have that growth mindset, that I am not going to be held down by this. And that's the one thing I feel the most inspired by with the women I get to work with, because they're always very much like me with the, life can knock us down. Life can be a son of a bitch. Like, it really can. It can just be like one slam, slam, slam. You could be everything's going good, and then boom, it feels like everything is going wrong. And we can succumb to that and give up, or we develop the inner toughness to refocus on the goal and keep fucking going. That's the only two options. You give up or you keep going, right? You only lose if you completely give up. And so sometimes it is refocusing. Sometimes it is changing up the goal, right? That's fine, but you don't give up and just lay down in defeat. It's easy to have those moments. So when you notice yourself going into that defeat mindset, that retreating mindset, that victim mindset of like, oh, life is this and life is that, and this, nothing's ever going well for me. It's always something. It's one thing after another. This again, can't anything go my way? It never ends. Listen to your mental chatter and then notice what happens with your body. Do you feel like sending that email? Do you feel like filling out those forms, or applying for that new job or a position or anything when you're in that mindset? No, you feel like crawling under the blankets and just eating ice cream or chocolate or something, right? And so we have to notice our patterns of doing that and push through that. It's noticing when you want to retreat and hide and isolate and avoid and do nothing and just go into that depressive energy. And noticing your pattern for doing that and go, okay, I'm there again. I need to keep moving forward. Because when you're going through the process of a divorce and the crazy making legal process with one of these men, you're going to have moments where you feel like the weight is just too much and you can't do it all. And if you are a sensitive woman, you are highly sensitive, these things are even harder to manage because you've got so many moving parts, so many things going on. And like, if you're like most women, you are taking the brunt of the parenting, and they just are doing the parenting when they feel like it or when it works on their schedule. That's pretty typical. And so the day-to-day parenting, like the day-to-day hard stuff of being there every day, making sure everything is fine for your children, that will fall on you. They will just do the absolute bare minimum, usually so they don't have to pay any child support typically. If they are the higher income earner, then that will be the motivation to reduce or eliminate any child support they would have to pay. So they will do everything they can to get out of that, believe me. And so you have to prepare yourself that, and one of the principles I teach the women in my program is you have to accept that this is just, it is what it is. Like, you have to accept some aspects of this because you're not going to be able to change them or make them see the light any more than you haven't been able to for however long you were together. There's no seeing the light. There's no getting through to them. And so you have to really focus in on what it is that you want and not let distractions come in or self-defeatist thinking keep you down. You have to be able to keep getting up and keep on going. So I am going to be running a challenge called Win Your Divorce. This is brand new. It's something I am just creating, and it's going to include a short video with a written challenge and tips, and it's to help you to bust through if that's how you're feeling, like you're feeling stuck in the depression, you're feeling bogged down, like the weight of the world's on your shoulders, you're dealing with daily panic and anxiety over communication with your ex, and it's causing you considerable stress, and you just want to be free of that. And you feel like there is no way out because you have to deal with them daily with kids. I want you to know that there is a way out of that cycle and out of those patterns. And yes, it will be uncomfortable. It will require some growth from you and changing your part in the dynamic of that and changing what it is that you're doing on your side of the street. As I always say, you can only control yourself. You've got to do your own work on your side of the street. And so what the things that I'm teaching women inside of the program, how to communicate, what to do, what not to do, ever, and some really hard and fast, like actual lines in the sand and boundaries that they need to have around communication. When you can't go no contact, right? It's like you hear all this, you go no contact. Well, if you have kids and they'll use that to rope you in and continue to manipulate with you. And so you have to have everything. You have to be armed with everything, like to know what limits to set, how do you protect your energy, how do you maintain your emotional and psychological safety through this whole thing, how do you keep being able to show up as a parent if you are the one that has the brunt of it on your plate and you are carrying the load. Again, this is common. So sometimes these men will take their kids on schedule like they're supposed to. Some of them do for a while and then they drop off. Some of them never do, and they just, you just see the bare minimum effort. And so you will have to prepare, as I say to all my women, prepare to do it all on your own. Because most of us don't have some kind of white knight in shining armor that's going to ride in on their stallion and take all of our problems away and keep paying all of our bills and make sure that we're taking care of ourselves. And, that's not going to happen. So what's the alternative? So the only option is to thrive. The only option is to succeed. Like failing is not an option. You might have to pivot. You might have to change things. You might have to go back to the drawing board, but you don't give up. And so the only way we fail is by giving up. So if you want to be part of this Win Your Divorce challenge, there's a link in the show notes in the description box of this episode for you to join. The date has not been decided yet, but I will be sending information out closer to the time. So make sure that you are on that wait list so you get all of the emails that are coming up once I have them. All right, so that's it for this quickie episode, and I'll chat with you in the next one. Take good care.
At the Coca-Cola Company, Keurig Dr. Pepper, and PepsiCo, some of our bottles can be remade in a whole new way, using 100% recycled plastic. New bottles using no new plastic except the caps and labels. Learn more at madetoberemade.org.